I know. I've seen your. I saw her right when I walked in. You need anything, Jimmy, from me?
I was trying to decide who hasn't done the pledge in a while. Great. I guess that's it, and then Jimmy will do the prayer. I was trying to go in my mind who's done it that I have. Got really quiet, so that must mean it's time to start. Can you hear me okay? All right. Okay, we'd like to excuse the mayor tonight, so I'll be conducting the meeting, so welcome everybody. It's great to see so many people here. We're always glad, I think I can speak for everyone, when we have a good crowd here and people get involved, so thank you for being here. Let's see, let's go ahead and get started then with our invocation, and we have the ever-willing Reverend Jimmy Keston from the Solomon's Porch Foursquare Fellowship, and with the Interfaith Council. And we could go on and on. But
Ever willing. I'm not sure how that sounds.
we would also like to make sure we do welcome your lovely spouse who is here with you, giving you some support, Rakeen.
My co-pastor, Reverend
Yeah.
Keene, is with us. She's recovering from shoulder surgery, so
Perfect.
keep her in your prayers as we're doing. Hey, is there like anything going on in this town?
Nothing.
Like, what a city we live in, what a community this is, and certainly the world has found out about us, and with the way that we put on events, it is really an extraordinary testimony to the kind of community we are. And really, when you look at the heart attitude of this community, not just St. George, but all of Utah's Dixie, it is such a blessing to be part of a community that really cares about each other, cares about people coming in, cares about the visitors that sometimes make life a little more difficult than we'd like it to be on race days and stuff. But it's such a blessing. And to see the way we pull together to put on the kind of major events like, excuse me, the marathon and now the upcoming Ironman, that really speaks to the heart attitude of this city, and something that as we have grown and doubled, tripled, and quadrupled inside, we haven't lost that. And my encouragement today is that we continue to seek ways to not lose that heart attitude that's bound us together with that small town feel. Let's pray. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we are so grateful that you have allowed us to live in this amazing place, one of the most beautiful places on the planet, only surpassed by the beauty of its people. And we are so grateful to be part of this community. As this council conducts the business of the city of St. George, we ask for your blessing upon each member of the council, all of St. George City staff, their families, and everyone who will be standing before this council to speak today. We thank you for all that you have blessed this community with. And we pray it in the name of Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you, Jimmy. I've asked Councilman Greg MacArthur to lead us in the pledge.
If you'll please stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance along with me.
Thank you, Greg, and again, thank you, Jimmy, for what you do. So, pass it on down. I'm asking somebody to do something on the spot here. So we do have one
Except for this
pre-agenda.
is the veterans.
Yeah.
I'm on that board, so everybody can bear with my
Oh,
voice.
perfect. Okay, I thought you said you have no voice.
I don't have a voice.
Oh,
You wait.
You can get through it for the veterans.
Yes, absolutely.
So we do have a proclamation that Councilwoman Natalie Larson is going to present.
Whereas nearly 1 out of 10 small businesses across the United States is veteran-owned, from Main Street storefronts to vital high-tech startups that advance America. Veterans-owned small businesses are pillars in our community and contribute to the foundation of our nation. And whereas veteran and small business owners are resilient, disciplined, mission-oriented, thanks to their military service and commitment to serving our country and communities. And whereas we resolve ourselves to strengthen our communities, we must empower and support giants that veterans entrepreneurs are our economy. And whereas Veterans Small Business Week highlights the programs and services available to veterans entrepreneurs through the United States Small Business Administration and resource partners. And whereas the City of St. George supports and joins this national effort to America's veteran-owned small businesses rebuild and recover from this pandemic and ensure that our communities remain vibrant. Now, therefore, I, Natalie Larson, in behalf of Mayor Michelle Randall, along with the City Council of St. George, Utah, do here proclaim October 31st through November 4th as National Veteran Small Business Week. That's awesome.
Thank you. Is Jackie here? Yeah, give us a hand. I apologize. Jackie Hobson, are you here? Or somebody from? She's on her way. Awesome. Are you here in her stead? Yeah. You just got yourself volunteered. Come up and say a few words if you'd like, and then I'll have Natalie come down and present right here to the microphone. Pull that microphone and introduce yourself. And
Perfect. My name is Scott Carlson. I'm with the SBA. I'm the Business Opportunity Specialist. I work alongside with Jackie, and so getting to be able to represent all of the small businesses and be able to represent the SBA and helping these small businesses, especially our veteran-owned. We are truly grateful for this time. So thank you so much.
Should any of those small businesses that legal that we can support? Do you know any of the small businesses?
So I know.
On the spot here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know we've got one or two here. I'll let them introduce themselves, that way.
perfect. Come up to the microphone and introduce yourself.
My name is Paul Zolman. I live here in St. George, and I have a business. I created a dice that helps people remember to love every day. It's called the Roll of Love, R-O-L-E, of love. So, veteran owned.
And you're a veteran of what branch?
U.S. Army Reserve, 82 to 88.
Very cool. Thank you. Stay up there. We're going to take a picture in a minute. Anybody else out there? Step up to the microphone.
My name is Eric Corning. Many of you know who I am. I have been in St. George since 1988. I am a member of a group that really loves veterans and wants them to succeed. I own a consulting company called Redcliffe Consulting, and one of my missions is to help veterans. Now, one of the things that I'll tell you about is my military service. I was in the United States Navy on COM Fibron 3, served in Vietnam, and I'm glad I served. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Do we have anybody else who wants to come up and introduce? Great. We're going to have Natalie come down, and we'll get a picture with you there. Yeah.
It's okay.
David, I feel like you should be in the picture too.
Side?
Yeah, I'm gonna let you hold it.
We held it. I never did this before.
Thank you. We like to support all of our local businesses. Let's put an emphasis on those veteran-owned. We appreciate their service to our country and to our community. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I think is there any other pre-agenda items? Okay, we have some changes to the agenda. Adam, if you want to kind of go through those with us.
Yeah, we've got a couple, so make notes. As we go along, we will not hear items 6, 8, or 18 tonight. Those will either be rescheduled or may not need to be heard. And then immediately following the consent calendar, we're going to move items 13 and 14 to the beginning of the agenda. We've just got some time constraints that we're trying to accommodate for those items. So for our staff members that are responsible for 13 and 14, we'll have you get queued up and ready to go after the consent calendar. So Mayor Pro Tem, that does take us to the consent calendar. We've got 5 items this week. If there are any questions on any of these items, we'd be happy to discuss those. I would clarify that for item item E, that is a contract with Ellen Curtis. We typically put the name of the vendor on there. It is included in the background information. These have all been reviewed. They meet all requirements. Staff would recommend approval as presented.
Okay, those changes all make sense, and then we're at the consent calendar, council, so.
Are you looking for a motion?
I am, unless there's any changes.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the consent calendar as presented.
I will second that motion.
So we have a motion by Danielle, a second by Greg. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Mayor Pro Tem, can I just make the comment that that purchase that we are approving has been in the works for, I don't know, Shane, like how many years? 10 years, maybe longer. So that's a really exciting piece that will be able to make a really important connection in our parks and trails system. So pretty big deal.
Yeah, I got to jump in on that one. That's
Yeah,
exciting.
it's very exciting.
That connection will make a full loop on our trail system. So we've always had a little bit of a disconnect on the west side of St. George, or on the other side of the bluff there, and this will connect everything up. It is awesome. It's exciting.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other comments? Our trails are pretty important, and they're part of our park system. And the nice thing is, once they're in, there's not a lot of maintenance, right? So it's one of those kind of public amenities that we don't have a huge expense, but are widely used and enjoyed by not only locals, but a lot of our visitors. So we're well known for that. So
This is off topic, but I'm just going to say it. The whole time Jimmy was talking before he gave us a moment of prayer, all I could think was the Dixie spirit, like how this community from day one has had to work together. And I look at what's happening this month particularly, how much we rely still on our residents all throughout the county to make these events come off, to make this a nice place to live, to pick up the garbage on Saturday morning. And I just think it is a wonderful community. We have so much here that we need to remember.
certainly, and I was thinking the same thing. And just as a reminder, that was the other Jimmy, or I'm the other Jimmy. That was Jimmy Keston. So, okay. Number 2. Dan, the man's got that?
Yep.
Or 13.
This is.
Oh, yeah,
this is-
sorry. I've already gotten off track.
That's.
Skip right. You know what we're talking about, though.
I know what you're talking about.
So these are items for those of you, 13 and 14, we're
Yep.
going to do together, right? Thank you, Adam, for keeping us on track.
Yes, this is item number 13, which is to consider approval of an ordinance amending various sections of Title 10 as they relate to setbacks and separation between buildings. So let's dive into it. Try to keep this brief because, and then you can just ask questions if you have any. But basically, we're looking at in the PDR, PDCs, all the PDs, what are appropriate setbacks between buildings and property lines, and also between buildings and buildings. So that's basically what the gist of this is. And just by way of a little bit of history, the code, Title 10, was rewritten about 3 years ago. And we've made changes to it over the years. This is one thing that's kind of been on the list that we've known that we need to tackle. Some of the things that were in the previous zoning ordinance didn't quite make it into this zoning ordinance. And if they did, they got jumbled up a little bit. So this is just an attempt to make it consistent with what was in the previous zoning ordinance and what we hoped would have been in that zoning ordinance. So I hope that makes some sense. And then when we got this application, which is the next item, it kind of just spurred us on to make these changes. So because there was a conflict there. So this is a look at the multifamily residential zones. Again, what we're attempting to do is say if a building is over a certain amount of height or stories, then it will require a greater setback. That's really all this is intended to do. And it's also intended to make clear when we're talking about separation between buildings as opposed to a setback from a property line or from a fence or a wall, that kind of thing. Really hasn't been clear in our code, since it was rewritten. It just was something that was kind of missed in the interpretation from the old to the new. So that's what we're looking at here. Again, trying to say if your building is over 20 feet in height, you're going to have to set it back farther than you would if it was shorter. Same thing goes for here. The one that I'd point out is the setback. Here, the side yard setback adjacent to single-family zone, it's going to be 30 feet. But if you're taller than 20 feet or you're a 2-story or higher building, we want to pull you back from the property line. If you're not, if you're a shorter building, if you're like a 1-story building, then there's not that impact that there would be otherwise. So you can come closer to the property line. So that's what this is attempting to do. And again, it's consistent through this whole thing. So instead of going through every slide, I would just ask you, with that in mind, if you have any questions. The Planning Commission did hear this application, and they did recommend approval of the application. So are there any questions that I might be able to answer? Anything that you went over that maybe was unclear to you?
Well, I was just going to say, what issues are we having with our current setbacks that made us feel that those needed to be changed?
Well, they weren't consistent with what we had in the previous code. Fortunately, we really, and the reason why it's taken us a while to get to it, because we really haven't had that many issues. But again, for consistency's sake, and just to make it clear what the code says, so that people reading it can know, oh yeah, that's what they're talking about. We want to make sure that's clear to the public, clear to developers, even clear to staff, that's what we're trying to do.
So I thought the changes were good. I read through them. The one thing I noticed is just the distances changed a little bit. Is that with the prior code change, and then this was just updating to the prior
That's right.
code change distances?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, that was the only thing I wanted to verify.
Yep.
Other questions?
Nope, I read through it too, and I thought it looked great. I'll make a motion that we recommend to City Council that we recommend these changes to Title 10 as proposed by staff and contained in Exhibit A, and that the findings are that it's in the best interest of the city to update the city zoning regulations periodically, and that the proposed revisions will bring the code back to the intended setback and the intended separation requirements.
Second.
So we have a motion by Danielle, a second by Natalie. Is there any other discussion? This is an ordinance. Does it require just a regular vote or roll call? Roll call. So this requires a roll call vote. So all in favor, starting with Danielle.
Danielle Larkin, aye.
Jimmy Hughes, aye.
Greg MacArthur, aye.
Natalie Larson, aye.
Michelle Tanner, aye.
The motion carries. Thank you.
Well, that segues nicely into item number 14, which is to consider approval of an ordinance amending the city center commons planned development residential zone in order to add a new office building to the Children's Justice Center site to be known as Children's Justice Center. It's on approximately 1.8 acres at 425 East, 500 South. You have probably driven by this and have seen it several times. This building has been in operation since approximately 2009. You can see that there's a building on the east side of the property. We're talking about these 5 parcels here on the west side that are being proposed to be built on now. General plan is low-density residential, and the zoning map shows that PDR. Now the zoning, the use was established back in 2008, and so that use is, like I say, has been in effect since then, and so we're really just expanding it to the next site over. And that shows that a little bit clearer, that the blue is the existing site, and then the yellow is the proposed building site. Look at the existing building. And you can see here this building, and this is the building in gray, for the proposed building. I'll have some parking in the back, and then of course some parking along here. I'll have to make some modifications. You can see, you can see here that they're adding some parking along this side, in addition to what they already have over here, and then, like I said, in the back and so forth. I don't the right one. This is just a concept landscape plan, and we'll go through and make sure, if this is approved, we'll go through and make sure that all the landscaping ordinances are being met, along with parking, et cetera. And then I'll look at the building itself. The building, as we measure from the midpoint, from the grade to the midpoint of the roof, as outlined in both the building code and the zoning code. And so that meets those requirements for approximately 18 feet. And renderings of the building. And then the materials board is right there. Planning Commission heard this as well. They recommended approval. The applicants are here, able to answer any questions that you may have. If you have any questions for them or for me, happy to answer those as well.
Any questions? If the applicant's here and wants to say a few words, you're welcome to. Okay.
Yay for Victoria.
So good to see you all. First, I'd really like to thank staff for working so hard to get this project to the place where we're at right now. I realized that it was a lot of extra work because of the zoning code change. I guess I can take responsibility if there was a mistake made back when we redrafted entire Title 10, but I really thank John and Dan and his whole staff for helping get to yes on this project. We only have a one-story building. It's going to be very similar to our other building. I know a lot of you are familiar with the Children's Justice Center. We provide services, and Christy Pike could talk more eloquently about this, to victims of crime who are children and their families. And it's for day use only. It's expanding the use that's already there. It's at a height that is compatible with the other building and surrounding buildings. And this code change would enable us also to keep all the landscaping and the trees that exist on the left side of that picture. So it really meshes with the neighborhood better because of the code change. So we do appreciate the staff so much. Again, we're not changing the zoning, we're not changing the use. We're just seeking permission for another building to use it for our children in this community. And unfortunately, we need more space because we have a bigger community than we had 10 years ago, plus when the other building was constructed. And if Christy or
Just like Christie's coming up, I think it speaks to the neighborhood when nobody came to the public hearing at Planning Commission to oppose this with the design, good neighbors and all that.
And I think Mayor Pro Tem Hughes spoke to that when the council came and visited the CJC a couple of years ago and talked about how originally the neighborhood had fought having the CJC there in that spot, and nobody's fighting it anymore. Part of our mission is to create a safe space where children who've been victims of crime can begin the road to healing. And that works best in a residential feeling, in a home-like feeling neighborhood. And we depend on our neighbors, and we want to be the best neighbor on the block. And that's one of the reasons why that amendment to the code was so important to us, was because it will help us fit in better with the rest of the community. It will look more like the rest of the neighborhood rather than having the big, a ginormous setback. So just a couple of things you might be interested in knowing. This building, we anticipate using it mostly for mental health, and we will also move our medical providers there. Between January and September of 2022, we screened 134 children for traumatic stress and suicidality, if appropriate. They had an average score of 21.5, which is going to mean nothing to you until I tell you that anything over 20 is screening high for traumatic stress risk, and if unmitigated, that often leads to PTSD. The same thing that our veterans deal with, our children can deal with as well. And as part of that screening, some of those children were asked over the last 2 weeks, how often have you been bothered by thoughts that you would be better off dead or hurting yourself in some way? And 52 or 39% of them answered yes. Several or more days in the past 2 weeks. So this is the work we're doing. we're working with these kids to mitigate the effects of their abuse, and we appreciate your support and the support of our neighborhood as we do that, and we are able to do that in that home-like friendly environment. And for any of you who have not been to see the Children's Justice Center, I would invite you to come and see. It's hard to explain standing here in City Council, but I think those of you who've been there can speak to that as well. So, any questions for me?
Thanks for all you do, Christy. It's a huge benefit for our community. Thank you.
Any questions for Christy or?
I'm just really grateful as well. Working in the ER here for about 6 years, I unfortunately referred, quite a few children over there, but how amazing that you guys were there to help them in that time of need. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I should also clarify, Victoria's right, we are seeing more kids because our community is growing, but we're also needing more space because we're expanding our services. A couple of years ago, we were not providing mental health, but just last month, our in-house providers provided over 100 appointments. A lot of those were in the schools. They would go to schools and see kids there, but we're expanding those services to provide better supports for kids and their families.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you do. And as Christy mentioned, we did get to do a little tour there, and that they end up being a really good neighbor. And when you go there and you get that tour and you learn those things that occur there and how that works, it's both, I don't know if these are the right words, it's both heartwarming or heartbreaking and heartwarming at the same time because of what has to happen there and what's happening there, and then the help that's provided and the atmosphere that's there, and all the many people that are there, like Christy, working so hard to give hope, really hope and some guidance. I really enjoyed that meeting, and like I said, it has become, I grew up right across the street there, and there was, of course, some maybe fear is the word to say about, something that's not a typical residence, but they've been a quiet and good neighbor as far as I've been able to see, and so it's just an all-around win-win in my opinion. So.
Thank you. I also want to just add, it will better expand our ability to create space where our multidisciplinary team partners, professionals who work with children, can come and receive some mental health, including our law enforcement partners. So.
Very good. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
So back to, so basically we're amending the planned development that's already there. Mm-hmm. So that's, if I'm saying that right, that's what we're making an amendment to what's already there.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, any other questions, or I'm ready for a motion?
Yeah, I'd say no questions, just praise. To do such a good thing in the community is a very easy one. So I would recommend we approve an ordinance amending the City Center Commons Plan Development Residential Zone in order to add a new office building to the Children's Justice Center site to be known as Children's Justice Center on approximately 1.80 acres, located approximately 425 East, 500 South.
I'll second that motion.
So we have a motion by Greg and a second by Michelle. Any other discussion? This is also a roll call vote, so starting with Michelle.
Michelle Tanner, aye.
Natalie Larson, aye.
Greg MacArthur, aye.
Jimmy Hughes, aye.
Danielle Larkin, aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. So before you tonight is the CAPER. This is an annual report required by HUD for the CDBG program. Essentially, it outlines how we spent last year's money. So it tells how program year 21 was spent, as well as the COVID funding that we received. A 30-day public comment period is required. Staff did not receive any comments, and then tonight is a public hearing. Any questions about it?
Perfect. Any questions? Just to be clear, we're back to item 2. We moved back to item 2 with, for those who are wondering, with Jenna. Any questions about that? If not, I'm ready for a motion. Oh, that's right. It's a good thing we have someone here that knows what's going on. So this is a public hearing. So at this time, I would open up the public hearing for those who have come to comment. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, and go back to you, council, for your discussion or motion.
Mayor Pro Tem, a motion to approve the Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report for the 2021 program year, fiscal year 2022 of the Community Development Block Grant.
Second.
So we have a motion by Danielle, a second by Greg. Any further discussion? This is regular vote, correct? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Cameron,
Well, Wes had a choice to either go see his daughter play soccer or to come to council, and I think it was a toss-up, but I think he chose the other one. So this first item is a consideration of an easement vacation by subdivision amendment in Meadow Valley Farms Phase 7, and you can see on this map. Basically, it's a housekeeping thing. It's a wall was built in a different location, not on the property line. The property owners have consented, requesting that we amend this plat. Part of the easement would be vacated and then rededicated as an easement to keep that 7.5 feet on either side of the property line.
any questions for Cameron?
Public hearing. Public hearing.
Okay, then we will go ahead. This is also a public hearing, so I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing for any that have come to comment. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and come back to you, council.
I'll make a motion. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I can't talk. To vacate the easement by subdivision amendment for Meadow Valley Farms Phase 7 partial amendment A lots 81 and 82.
Second.
So we have a motion by Natalie, a second by Michelle. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Go ahead, Cameron.
This next item is also consideration of an easement vacation and by subdivision amendment. This is in Bloomington Hills, Phase 10. The property owner of lot 80, I want to make sure I get it right, 81, he also owns lot 88 to the north of him. The property to the, I guess, the southeast was already amended, but the easement in highlighted yellow, there was a Dixie Power line still there. And so now it's been moved since then, and so they've come back to amend the plat, combine lots 81 and 88, and then vacate the easements between both of these properties. That's part of this amendment to the side also, if that makes sense. So that there would be no easement between these two amended and joined lots.
Does that make sense? Any questions before I open the public hearing? So this is a public hearing, so I will go ahead and open the public hearing for those who have come to comment on this item. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and come back to you, council.
Motion to vacate an easement by subdivision amendment for Bloomington Hills, lot number 10 subdivision, partial amendment B, lots 81 and 88, and lot 82.
Second.
So we have a motion by Danielle, a second by Michelle. Any other comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, this last vacation is one that council has already seen. It's been a while. Last year, I believe is what it was. We actually, council approved some deeds, some land swap with the church and with the city, but we failed, staff failed to put it on the agenda as a roadway vacation. And so this is a cleanup item. The orange portion was City of St. George, a roadway, an old roadway, platted road, and we moved it to the west, and we swapped that property. And so this is consider a roadway vacation by ordinance to be able to vacate that road and then clean up the deeds to get them recorded at the county.
Any questions for Cameron? Okay, this is also a public hearing, so I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing for any who have come to comment on this item. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and come back to you, council, for your action.
Mayor Pro Tem, I'll make a motion that we approve an ordinance for a roadway vacation for a plotted roadway located at 3210 East St. East Street between Merrill Road and Washington City and 1140 South Street in St. George.
Second.
So a motion by Greg, a second by Natalie. If there's no other discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Let's see, so we're down to 7 now, correct? Shirlene.
Item 7.
Shirlene, you gave us a lot of reading with this one.
I give you a lot of
A
what?
lot of reading. There's a lot to read. It was good.
Yep. That's all rich. So the St. George Regional Airport Master Plan, this is to consider approval of that, and we are going to hear from airport manager and expert Rich Staymeyer about that process. He'll do a quick presentation, and then we're both here to answer any questions you may have.
Good evening, Council. Thank you, Shirlene. Again, I'm Rich Staymeyer, I'm the airport manager of the St. George Regional Airport. We're here tonight just to give you kind of a brief overview of what we've done with the master plan that was approved about 1.5 years ago, as far as approved to be done. Let's see, make sure I can, there we go. What is the master plan? As you can see, it's basically an official FAA aeronautics document that we use for planning at the airport. If it's not done, then nothing gets funded by the FAA. So that's a very key part of why we need to have a master plan at the airport. I want to remind you also that if you decide to adopt this evening, it will be contingent upon the FAA approving it and making any changes to it. Just want to remind you of that. So, and if you have any questions, make sure you stop me and don't understand it. But hopefully you had a good time reading all this information, and that your insomnia was cured. So anyway. Basically what the process is we do an inventory of what we have, forecast, do environmental study, including archaeological findings at the airport. And for any of you that are around the airport, we did identify one that was formed about 6 years ago, so it doesn't count. But anyway, it has been marked down and is now on the National Register, and so we're good. So none of you have to worry about that in the future. Then what we do is we look at facility requirements and what do we need, what are our needs at the airport, and then we look at alternatives of how we're going to fund those things. We have an implementation plan, just like it says there, and then the final report will be done with an ALP, which is an airport layout plan. And then this particular master plan will also have a dynamic analysis tool, which, so you understand what that is, basically, as we move forward with the master plan, if there are changes to it, we can actually input the numbers to that if we get another airline, and it will change the whole thing. So it's actually really incredible, very dynamic tool. So that currently is at the FAA for approval. They've had it for about 3 months now, and it's a process. So once they go through their process, then they'll approve it, and we'll move forward. Just want to let you know that we did have an incredible amount of public involvement for this master plan. We presented it, as you can see highlighted there, presentation to the St. George Mayor and City Council back in January, and then again, a council meeting at 5/2/22, and then of course this evening. And then if you look at some of those other areas, we talked to just about everybody. And according to McFarland Johnson, who was the primary consultant and engineering firm who did the master plan, this has been an absolutely incredible process for them. Never, ever have they ever had that kind of involvement from the public. So kudos to us in St. George. Just identifies critical aircraft. This is kind of a fun one to look at for you. Short term, if you look up there, that's what we're basically flying in and out of there right now. Long term will be much larger aircraft with Airbuses and 737s. And for all the neighbors around the airport, as the aircraft get newer and bigger, they get quieter. So that's an awesome thing. So we came up with obviously some needs with our terminal, and we identified after we went through multiple alternatives. We came up with an alternative, and what we did then was basically phased that development so that financially we could do it over a series of years, and so that we wouldn't have to say it's going to cost us, $40-50 million to upgrade or to expand our terminal. We could say we can do this portion and this portion over several years. Hopefully within 2026 or 2025, we'll hopefully have funding to expand the terminal out there at this time. Questions? This is the drafted recommended alternative that we came up with. Everything in green there, and there's a lot of green, is basically future development at the airport. And those projects will all be funded. And here it leads us right to the next slide, so that everyone knows. As a commercial airport, we do not get very much funding from the state. Occasionally we get a little bit, but most of our funding comes from the federal FAA fund, and about 90% of that. Then we have a local 10% match, and that money comes from passenger facility charges or actual money that's raised at the airport. So it doesn't come out of the general fund, which is a really awesome thing for people to know. It comes, the FAA funds are all from fees and charges by airlines when you fly. And PFCs are passenger facility charges, and every time you fly out of the airport, you pay $4.50. So that's where that money comes from. So unless you used the airport, you don't pay for the airport. Pretty awesome thing. We are the only, other than Salt Lake International Airport, we are the only other airport that is self-sufficient. So, questions?
Any questions for Rich?
This doesn't really pertain to that, but since you brought up noise, some of the neighbors at Desert Canyon have been, is it SUU that's doing touch and goes, or what are they doing? I mean, I've just had a few phone calls, and so I don't.
So occasionally we do have activities out there that include older aircraft and jet aircraft that are older, military, and so they are a little bit louder. Usually those are once a year, twice a year, so usually I don't get too many calls from people out there. Occasionally we do, but yeah, they're pretty well protected.
The nice thing is that the reason why the airport went out there in the first place in the middle of nowhere is so that everybody would be aware that there was an airport there.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Yeah.
I couldn't say that. Neither could Adam, but
Yeah.
you could. So there you go.
I've been around it long enough to remember when the opening. So.
Hey, I used to live in the flight pattern when it was up on the hill, and we
Yeah.
could tell what time of day it was. Like if we were in the backyard playing, like, oh, it's 1 o'clock. We better go in.
Yeah. Very
Anything
cool.
else?
Any other questions?
It's been a great process. Really has.
Yeah, I'll make a comment. Rich, I think you're doing an amazing job out there. I mean, we have one of the fastest growing regional airports in the United States, and it's going great. I think the consultant you got, McFarland Johnson, I had a chance to attend one of their meetings. I've also met with them multiple times on other things, and they've just proven that they're extremely good. So I think we got the right planning consultant there with us, and
I would agree.
I'm excited about the plan. I think it's great.
Thank you.
Yeah. I would say thank you to Rich as well. He's kind of one of those guys that just does his job. You never hear from him, and everything just seems to go well. He asks for what he needs. When you tell him no, he figures it out. Of course, we never tell him no, but no, he does a great job, and so I want to thank you. So, okay. So, any discussion, or I'm ready for a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the St. George Regional Airport Master Plan.
I'll second.
So we have a motion by Danielle and a second by Greg. If there's no other discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you again, and thank you, Shirlane. skipping 8 back to 9, right?
I hope so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mike is up.
All right. This item is to consider approval of a conditional use permit to add a new 5,000 square foot sales building on the existing Carpets Plus at 1301 West Sunset Boulevard. Here you can see an aerial view. We have Sunset Boulevard there to the north, the existing Carpets Plus building, and then council remembered that they came through and got approved for a couple more buildings here on this site. The zoning is C3. General plan is commercial. And then here's an overview of the site. Here's the new proposed building located right here. And here's the previous approved buildings. With that, the applicant's representative is here, or I can answer any questions you might have. And the Planning Commission did recommend approval with no conditions.
Questions? Fits the zoning, looks like it's a good layout. The Planning Commission likes it. With that, I'll make a motion. Make a motion that we approve a conditional use permit to add a new 5,000 square foot sales building on the existing Carpets Plus at 1301 West Sunset Boulevard.
Second.
Is that you, Michelle? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Motion by Greg, second by Michelle. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Carol.
You have great slides. Just so you
Always.
know.
Oh, thank you. I actually took this picture. So, yeah, it was a fun day. Anyways, we are moving on to item number 10, which is to consider approval of an ordinance amending the Actonville Interchange Area Zone Plan for Area 1-5 to allow a hospital as a permitted use and to approve their design to build a new hospital and future medical center on 17.86 acres located on the northwest corner of Southern Parkway and Desert Color Parkway to be known as Zion Regional Medical Center. Okay, so general location, we are sandwiched between Desert Parkway, or Desert Color Parkway, the Southern Parkway, and then of course I-15. This is the land use map which designates this as visitor convenience commercial. I guess some visitors could conveniently visit a hospital if they needed to, but it does work according to the plan. So, and the zone is planned development. So in this plan, these 9 uses, these are the uses that the applicant would like to use for this property. They are all, most of them work with the allowed uses in this zone, which is C2 uses, except for hospital is not a permitted use in the C2 district. And so one of the things they're asking for tonight is to approve this use just for this 1.5 area in the Actonville interchange plan. This is their site plan that they're proposing. This is Desert Color Parkway here and then Southern Parkway here. There will be 3 entrances. I'll talk about those in a second, but right here is where the main hospital will be going. This is phase 2, which is an extension of the hospital, and then we have 2 medical offices buildings planning on going in. And then the cross here, that is for a helicopter pad for landing, for emergencies. This is a phase plan. Everything in yellow is what they plan on putting in during phase 1. The blue is phase 2, and then the black is future phases. I actually don't have plans for the black area right now, so you'll just be basically approving these 2 or looking to approve, or I guess you could deny. Parking, since they're putting all the parking in phase 1, they're putting in 957 parking spaces. They will meet their parking regulations. The future phases, when they put in these 2 buildings, the parking, they will have underground parking because they will need to supplement that 957. In total, they will exceed the parking regulations. Here's their 3 access points. This one will probably be their main one. It's directly across the access that goes into Paparazzi. And this right here is the exit off of Southern Parkway. You can go onto Southern Parkway or exit off of it to go into this location. Pedestrian access, something I wanted to point out, we do have already a sidewalk that's along Desert Color Parkway. The applicants will be putting in access off of there into the hospital. There will be connecting sidewalks going into the future medical office buildings. And the applicant has also plans to put in a pathway that goes around the entire parcel. We talked a lot about people that go to hospitals, people that are not in the hospital but are there with their loved ones. A lot of times they need time to think about things, and so they thought that would be a good idea to put a pathway around, just somewhere where some people can walk outside and get some fresh air and kind of make their decisions. This kind of shows the pathway going around the whole way. And then they also have a sidewalk entrance here off of Desert Color Parkway into the office buildings. I do want to point out this parcel here, this 1 acre parcel, is just some extra land they had. They don't have any plans for it now. They will be landscaping over it with phase 1. Then if they decide to put something in it in the future, they'll just tear that out and put in the new building. Go ahead, Natalie.
So it looks pretty sparse on landscape.
This is conceptual, so they will be required to do that 15-foot strip, and then they'll probably add a little bit more landscaping in this area, but this is just conceptual. We will hold them more to our regulations when we get through the site plan process. The checked areas are the landscape areas, and you're right, it does look pretty sparse. We will be requiring them to put a 15-foot landscape buffer all, well, I guess there's only 3 sides on this property, so this side, and then this other back side, they won't need to put that in. But we will require them to fill in. They're required to have at least 50% of the landscape area in vegetation. So that's how that will look in the future. And sign plan, this is the sign plan they're presenting. They're not asking for any variations of our sign permits. They will be putting a message board along by the freeway at 50 foot high, which is what is allowed. And then they've got 2 monument signs and a directional sign here. Photometric plan, they seem to be meeting everything that we require. They will not have lights on the building except for maybe a few sconce lights pointing down. They won't have anything shining up. And then this is the lighting for the parking. This is what the building is going to look like. This is what you'll see from kind of the Southern Parkway view. And then this one is from Desert Color Parkway. This top view is the rear side, so that vacant lot, which is the Moto United that you approved earlier this year, will be looking out this way. And then from I-15, this is what you'll see. For the height, this originally went to the Planning Commission. They wanted 75 feet. The Planning Commissioners had a little bit of a heartache over that. The hospital or the development group went back and they came back with 70 feet. And then they did have, it was in your packet in the narrative, just an explanation of why they need so great of a height. There's only going to be 4 floors on this addition, but they do need a lot of footage, distance in between the floors. There's at least 5 feet in between each floor for the equipment in a hospital. So that's why they're requesting this height. Here's just an image showing some different heights around the area. This hospital actually is up against these foothills, so it does cushion the height a little bit. And then some renderings for you. This is the front of the hospital. This is kind of zoomed in. This right here is the second, or the phase 2. This is looking south on I-15, big shots right here. You can kind of see it just in the background. And then on Southern Parkway, looking over the freeway, these are the two medical office buildings. They don't have those designed yet at that point. And then this is just with the Phase 1 and Phase 2. This is looking north, or looking south from I-15. And this is the building here. And then we've got another look. I think this is our last rendering image from Southern. This is Southern Parkway, just further down into the Sun River development as the building looks up against the foothills. Materials board here. When we took this to the Planning Commission, there were a few items they wanted to make sure that we got this as conditions for this, and one of them was obviously that hospital be added. The second one is that they'll work with Public Works. The Atkinville Interchange Area Zone Plan does have the area right. I'll just quick show you. Well, let me go back. This location right here is designed to have a signal at this location, and so they need to work with Public Works on the timing of that signal, on whether they're going to put it in right now or in the future. I believe they already have their results from their traffic study into Public Works. The third condition was that they include that 15-foot landscape buffer I talked about earlier. The fourth one is that they can go up to 70 feet in height. And then the last one, on the building, the Planning Commission made a recommendation that they give a little bit more articulation to this second phase to give it a little bit more design, color, some more shape to it, just so it just didn't look so much like a white wall. And that's it. The applicant is here if you have questions for them. Otherwise, I can answer any questions.
Question for you. Why was that hospital use taken off that list? I know at Planning Commission, they go through all those lists and they remove things or take them away, or staff suggests that. Is there a risk with the hospital, or is there something? To me, that seems like a great location, but.
Right. When the Atkinville plan was originally adopted, they just used the C2 uses, and there wasn't no one went through all of them and selected, take this one out, put this one in. Hospital is not allowed in a C2 district, and so it just, they were planning on it more being gas stations, I think, welcome center, that type of businesses for that exit. It is a good place for a hospital, but that wasn't on anybody's mind at the time the Atkinville plan went through.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Carol, I have a couple questions. Well, first of all, I love this as opposed to this. We saw this same hospital in another location, and it seems like the access to this will be much better. Did they have a helipad at the other one?
They did.
Oh, they did. I didn't remember that.
It was in the rear on the east side.
Okay.
Kind of in the same type location.
Okay, so is there any concern with the helipad being that close to I-15? Is there any problem there? That seems like
No,
that's probably already been figured out.
They've been working with FAA on that and making sure that they're not.
My only other question was about the sign, the message board sign. Is there a rendering to show? Are we approving that now? I'm only worried about the brightness of it.
Okay.
If it's really high, is it going to affect the residents? Is it going to affect I-15? Some of those message boards along I-15 are really distracting.
Right. And that's something, I mean, at this time, they only have the location. We can bring this back for that actual message board. It does meet our if it doesn't meet our regulations, is typically what we do is we bring them back if they don't. They don't have the design for the actual structure holding up the signs. But that's something, if this council would like to see that come back, we certainly can do that. Typically, like I said, if it meets the regulations, which we do have lumen requirements.
Brightness, lumen
regulations,
okay.
But if you'd like to come back, we can put that as a condition to bring it back when they have their physical signs planned for them.
Okay, yeah, I think that would be good.
One of the other issues that came up with those signs before, and I don't know if it's in our ordinance, but it's not necessarily sometimes about the brightness, it's about the movement after
Yeah,
the
correct.
changing.
Right, and we don't allow movement, animation on the screen. It's a stagnant move from, you see it on the billboards, they just, one billboard and then the next one, and it's not dancing off the screen.
What is the regulation on how often that changes, though? I know they went through it last time, but they can flip through pretty fast.
Typically, it's 8 seconds for cities, but is it 8 here? 7? I'm hearing 7, 8.
That's still pretty fast for that location.
Yeah,
and that's what all the billboards that are, the message boards, that's what they switch at.
Which hospital system owns this?
I'd have to let you have the applicant.
Is the applicant here? Do they want to say anything? Might as well come up while you're here.
I'd love to. Hey, thank you. I'm Jared Cox with Coaction Development Group. So Quorum Health is going to be the operator of the hospital. That's who we're working with. On the message board, Danielle, we're not looking for, mostly we want to have information such as ER wait times, public health information that might be worth presenting up there and stuff like that. So everything within the current guidelines, but if the council would like us to come back and bring that before for approval, that would be fine as well.
My only concern was brightness and its proximity to the freeway.
For sure. Yeah, I know there's another message board just north of us, just by the Kenworth site, and so anyway, yeah, that's similar type of a message board.
Any other
Did I
questions
answer
for
the
the
question?
applicant?
Sorry.
Lise?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
I'm really excited for this. I have to say it's long overdue coming from the health community here, so I'm excited for it.
We're excited about it too, and the providers that we're working with, and certainly we're appreciative of all that staff has done to help us work through some of the questions and challenges that P&Z had, and so we're excited with where things are at right now, for sure.
Very good. Any other questions for the applicant while he's here? Thank you so much. Okay. If there's no other questions, this is an ordinance to add the use to amending the Atkinsville interchange zone plan, and approving the design. Conceptual. Yeah, adding hospital. That makes
Are you
sense?
ready for a motion?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
ready.
All right. I will make a motion that we approve ordinance amending the Atkinsville interchange area zone plan for area 1 through 5 to allow hospital as a permitted use and approval of their design to build a new hospital and future medical center on 17.86 acres located on the northwest corner of Southern Parkway and Desert Color Parkway to be known as Zion Regional Medical Center.
Did you want
I
that
think
to
the
include
motion.
The 5 conditions.
Yeah.
There was 5
It's-
conditions.
The
Include
planning
the
commission
recommendations.
conditions.
With the 5 recommendations from Planning Commission.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion from Michelle and a second by Danielle. Any other discussion? If none, all in favor. This is an ordinance, so we do need a roll call vote, starting with Danielle.
Danielle Larkin, aye.
Jimmy Hughes, aye.
Greg MacArthur, aye.
Natalie Larson, aye.
Michelle Tanner, aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Good luck. Exciting stuff. Mike's back on.
All right. This item is to consider approval of an ordinance changing the zone from A1 agricultural minimum lot size 1 acre to R120 residential single family minimum lot size 20,000 square feet lots on approximately 18.62 acres located on the southeast corner of 1580 South and 3000 East to be known as Solace. Here we have the aerial view of the location. Here we have 3000 South, the temple that's currently being built. The general plan is LDR long low-density residential. The zoning, as mentioned, was A1 agricultural. And then just here's the surveyor's site map. With that, I can answer any questions, if you have any.
Any questions?
And the planning commission did recommend approval with no conditions.
Ready for a motion?
I'm ready.
I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance changing the zone change from A1 agricultural to R110. Minimum lot size approximately 18.62 acres, located on the southeast corner of 1580 South, 3000 East.
Second.
So just for clarification, we're going to R120, correct? Not
Oh, did I
R110.
say-
Correct, yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure. I know that's what you
I said
meant.
that first, but yeah.
Yeah.
that's good. Thanks for cleaning that
No.
up for me.
Okay, so we're all clear on the motion. We have a motion by Natalie and a second by Michelle, going from 1 acre to R120, which still, so these are half-acre lots, right? Is that what my math right? Okay. All right. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, yep, an ordinance. Roll call vote. Start with Greg.
Greg MacArthur, aye.
Natalie Larson, aye.
Michelle Tanner, aye.
Danielle Larkin, aye.
Jimmy Hughes, aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Thanks, Mike. We're going to fight over this one.
We're debating which one of us is up. I think
Dan
it's
goes.
me. So we'll go with it, I guess. Yeah, item number 12 is to consider approval of an ordinance. Changes the zone from R110 residential to PDC, planned development commercial, on approximately 4.67 acres. And PDAP on approximately 2.72 acres. And this is on River Road, southeast corner of River Road and 1450 South. You've seen this one a number of times before. And so I'll just go through this. This is the property in question. You see River Road here, 1450 South up here. You approved the northern portion of this property for a PD, for commercial PD, I believe it was last year. And then they came in for a general plan amendment on the southern portion of this property earlier this year. I want to say back in May. And this is what the land use map looks now, or the general plan map. So you see all of this is commercial, and then this is that 2.72 acre, which is they're asking for the professional office, or the PDAP, sorry, on that portion of it. So the zoning will follow these lines, with the exception of this green. This green is open space. It is going to be open space, and I'll go over that with you, but it will be part of that PDC zone, just to make sure there's no, that doesn't get broken off in the future or subdivided off. So currently zoned, it's all zoned R110, so it's residential, single family. This is the proposed use list for the PDC, and then also over here you see the PDAP. Over here, this is the use list that was approved on this northern portion that was approved last year. So it's the exact same use list to be consistent with the rest of the PD that will be on that northern part of the southern part, if that makes sense. So those uses will be consistent with the rest of the PDC. Then for the PDAP, which is that southern 2.72 acres, that is going to just be an office. And so they're just asking for these few uses: office, personal care service, and medical office. The applicant is here, and he can run through their justification. But that's really, they've got a user lined up for that office building, and they didn't feel like they need much in the way of uses on that portion of the property. So you can see in gray, this is what was approved last year, and this that is not grayed out is what we're looking at today. And you can see all the square footages over here. And the only building we're really looking at today, so we're looking at a zone change, we're looking at a use list, and then we're looking at one single building, and that's building N down here on the south end. That's the office building. We did look at at the parking comprehensively. So we looked at what we knew was going to go on that northern portion. We looked at what we knew was going to be on the southern portion with the building sizes and the uses that they're asking for. And we comprehensively looked at all the parking to make sure that's going to work. We came up with a total number of 796 that they would need for the entire site, and they're providing 828. So they are meeting the requirements for parking. Some of this is worst case scenario. We don't know how much restaurant will go in, for instance, but if the entire, if there's, we kind of went on the high side for restaurant because they're required to park at a higher ratio. So tried to be a little bit more conservative on that. So we make sure that we get enough parking in there.
So a number of those had drive-through windows, as I remember. In that development, they had drive-through.
Yeah. But there are no drive-throughs are being requested on this.
Okay.
So the southern end. Trying to keep those on the northern end so they're farther away from the residents to the south.
And why I'm interrupting you, this would just be a right in and right out to get to this property if you're coming off River Road?
I can't remember what was decided on. Do you remember, Cameron? Full access. Yeah, okay. Full access. Onto River Road and out of.
So we looked at that quite a while ago. So the median extends, I believe, just right down just before this access. So this is far enough away from 1450 South or George Washington Boulevard that it could be a full access. Now, the distance, if push came to shove, you could put a signal right there, but it does meet the access management for a full access right there, I believe.
Did they do like a traffic study? That coming down River Road right there, it is pretty blind. I mean, turning, into Bundy Lane is pretty blind.
Yeah, in fact, what you're probably seeing is because it's so busy on River Road, it's backing up. And so there are times when the queuing up at the traffic signal comes back around that curve, absolutely. And if we do have the issues, if we have safety issues, we come back for a recommendation for a median.
Well, couldn't we just say right in, right out right there? Because there's a different way into that project. You could turn on 1450 South, is what I still call it, and come up and around a different roadway. That is concerning. I know you're the traffic guy, so.
That's a possibility. That's a possibility. We'd have to look at the traffic volumes again and see if it's really going to be based on accidents, and you can't predict accidents. Unfortunately, but that's why the distance away from George Washington Boulevard does allow for a full access. The next step would be a traffic signal or a median for right in, right out. But that's to try and answer your question, sorry.
I know I'm not the traffic expert either, but I agree with her. Feels scary.
Cameron, so just to follow up, you'd have to wait for accidents before you'd put a median in, or just could you clarify on that?
No, you don't. Usually the analysis comes about because of accidents. You could do one before. It's just a guesstimate. It's just I don't know, my crystal ball is probably pretty foggy sometimes, but you could do an analysis before that. You could look at existing accidents and try and compare that to other locations. Absolutely.
Do we tie that to this approval, or do we just look at that? So I know we're talking zone change today, but is this something we look at later or now?
Either way. Now, I know the businesses and things, either one side or the other, they're going to want access. And we could do a bit of analysis to check that out. I hate to propose another traffic signal, but that's one of the solutions to try and help that.
That's the right in, right out right there. I feel like with the increased traffic because of all the commercial going on both sides of the street, there's a lot of distraction there anyway. And I see George Washington Boulevard only getting busier with all the development that we've approved, I just see that's going to be a lot of wrecks right there.
Yeah. One point to consider or to keep in mind, once we get the 1450 South or the George Washington Boulevard extension down to Crosby Way, that southbound left turn that goes onto this George Washington Boulevard, that will be greatly reduced. And so it will help, it will help to allow the north and the southbound a little bit more green time. You start to put more traffic in the north, south, east, west direction rather than left turns. That will end up
The
helping.
timeline on that is
So
five
we
to 10
are,
years?
oh, I hope it's sooner than that, actually. So we are looking to finish up the design on the roadway portion, and we've got, the timing of that is probably put it under obligation, award it to bid or something like that by next spring to summer. The bridge, we'll have to look at the next couple of fiscal years to see if we can get that funded in our transportation dollars. So hopefully within maybe 3 years, you'll see that roadway.
Yeah, I agree with you too, because you have that hill coming down too, so I don't know if we've accounted for that as well, so I agree.
I think if you think about our accidents in general, a lot of left-hand turn, especially with a 4-lane road, seems to be, I know from my professional career, a lot of the ones I respond on are left-hand turns on major roadways. And it's not, I understand the concerns, I guess what I'm trying to say. So that is a concern. The key is we want to keep traffic flowing, but also make it safe. We watched this really annoying video at our regional transportation meeting that Danielle is on. Annoying because it had annoying music, like, I don't know. But the point I got out of it was that it's about conflict resolution or conflict mediation, so there's less places where traffic can conflict or interact. So the main thing I learned was how many points of conflict are in a roundabout. What was your guess for? Right, never in roundabouts. But so I said 4, but there's actually 8. And I'll let you guys figure that out. But anyways, so that's the key, and I understand the concerns. Anyways, Dan, back to you.
I want to jump in on that one a little bit more. I think about this, and I think about, well, we're on River Road. It gets backed up with a major intersection, and it'll only get more major moving forward. I'm in this backup right here at this area every morning. I take my nephew to school from Little Valley, so I totally see this. Anyways, if you look at Red Rock Commons, that's a very similar situation where we get a backup to a major intersection right there, and it has a right in, right out, and that's still heavy. And so at the least, I would recommend that as we approve or look at approving this, we do a study or something and make sure that we analyze this well.
I guess it's fresh on, I didn't know it has nothing to do with it, but I travel Sunset frequently, and I wouldn't dare turn left on Bluff Street half the time if I was not at a signal. So I just, we've had a lot of heartache out there. I just don't want it on another roadway that we can control.
Yeah.
And that's something you can certainly condition. The applicant is here as well, and they may have done some studies that I'm not aware of, but I'm sure he could address that as well. I'll just finish up, and then if you want to hear
Perfect.
from him,
Thank
you
you, Dan.
certainly can. This is the elevations of the building. I'm just going to go back really quickly. You may remember that there has been, from the neighbors to the south, and even some to the east, some heartache with this over the years. We actually have you actually had a couple of letters in your packets of applauding the developer for the design that they've come up with, and
the public
so
hearing, the public hearing at Planning Commission was any concerns?
No.
Okay.
No.
This is probably the most seen property since I've been on Planning Commission. We've seen this so many times, and the neighbors have been really stressed about it. And so over the years, and worrying, how it'll affect the neighborhood. So getting those positive feedback letters from them and knowing that the developer has worked so well with them is a really big deal.
Yeah. So with that, I just wanted to point that out also. This is the building. the one that we're looking at. Of course, any future buildings that are in the PD will have to come back because we haven't looked at all of them. We've looked at some of them on the north, but not all of them. So they'll come back with those elevations. And this building is about 40 feet to the highest point. So from here, this high point to the grade. The bulk of the building, though, along here is about 36 feet. So that's two-story building. And they've pulled it back quite a ways. I don't know the exact number here. I want to say it was 70 feet or something like that. So they've pulled it back so that it's not as intrusive as it could be. And then this is a rendering, and the board is right there as well. So with that, again, the applicant is here. The Planning Commission recommend approval of the application. And if you'd like to talk to him, I'm sure he'd be happy to talk to you. Otherwise, I'm happy to answer questions too as well.
Does the applicant have anything they want to add?
This is just for the zoning portion, correct? Sorry, we're on for a couple of different things for the agenda tonight, so just want to make sure. But we agree as well as far as the safety protocols for this road. I was just going over these items, and you'll see the plat here later. There's also a deceleration lane that is being created that will help with that will also help with that. I don't love a left turn there, so we have no opposition to a divider on our part as the developer. So other than that, I think that's it.
Any questions for the applicant? Thank you.
Perfect.
Okay, if there's nothing else or any other discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor Pro Tem, I'll make a motion that we approve an ordinance changing the zone from R110 single-family residential to PDC on approximately 4.67 acres and PDAP administrative professional on approximately 2.72 acres generally located on the southeast corner of River Road and 1450 South for a project to be known as River Crossing Phase 2. And I want to add one additional thing, and that would be with that access there, we either put a median or make it a right in, right out, just to curb the left-hand turns.
Second.
Is that clear? All right, we have a motion by Greg, a second by Natalie. If there's no other discussion, all in favor say aye. Oh, this is a roll call. I'm getting there. Roll call vote because it's an ordinance, starting with Danielle.
Danielle Larkin, aye.
Jimmy Hughes, aye.
Natalie Larson, aye.
Greg MacArthur, aye.
Michelle Tanner, aye.
Nice. Motion carries unanimously. All right, we've taken care of 13 and 14, so we're on to Carol with 15, right?
Yep. Yes. This is to consider approval of an ordinance amending the Red Cliff Small PDC, Planned Development Commercial Zone, to create a new entrance into the mall and to modify the exterior of the former Sears building for Al's Sporting Goods to fill the vacated space. This is generally located at 1770 East Red Cliffs Drive and is approximately 39 plus acres and for a project to be known as Red Cliffs. Okay, so we know the general location of Red Cliffs Mall. Today we're going to focus on the old Sears location, and then this little area off to Mall Drive itself. Land use map is commercial, and zoning, of course, is PDC. So zooming in on the location, this is the way it looks today. The applicants would like to add an entrance. We've got 450 North entrance up here, and this will be midpoint between 450 and the next intersection, where they would like to add an entrance here that will go to where the Al's Sporting Goods is going to be, which is right here. They will, I don't think I covered it on that. I don't think I'm going to cover it on this one. So I'll just let you know on parking. I actually did a count of the mall myself. And the mall's about 450 over parking. So they're going to be removing about 63 spaces to put this new entrance in, probably a little bit less. And so they're definitely fine on their parking. This area here that was by the old Sears building on the south side, it was a little drop off. They are removing this and then just putting in concrete in the place of it. It'll be at this location, you can see they'll have some displays, some outdoor displays with their product. So here's the rendering of the exterior. Another image, zooming in a little bit, another look at how they're going to change the exterior of the building. I do have a materials board up here if you're interested in looking at the colors in person. This did go before the Planning Commission for a public hearing. They did recommend approval. There were a couple conditions. Number one, that a pedestrian access be put in between Mall Drive and then the actual mall, so they can get someone on foot can get safely across the parking lot. And then also that the applicant work with Public Works on the entrance, that new mall entrance, on the requirements that Public Works is going to require on that. So if you have any questions for me, I'm available. Also, the applicant, representative of the applicant is here with any other questions.
Does the applicant want to add anything? Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm Nate Evans with Satterfield Home Management, one of the owners of the mall. Also, we have Chris Longton here, who represents the Utah State Pension Fund, and then Chris Larson, who's the owner of ALS. And we just wanted to, first off, answer any questions. We also agree with the recommendations that the Planning Commission came to us with, those two recommendations. And then the only other clarification is where we are adding the concrete on the backside of the ALS box, it'll be more of a plaza type feel, not just stark concrete. So yeah, with landscaping, trees, bushes, things like that. So
be a great addition.
It should be. We're excited. Any questions for us?
Any questions? Excited about?
It looks great. It'll be nice to have something
about
back there. And thanks for doing such a great job with the exterior and adding that pedestrian space.
We're excited. We're excited also just because of the caliber of tenant that we're getting. We've waited a long time for this one. Sears has been dark for a little while. And to have a company like ALS come down here, this will be your fourth location, correct?
This will be our fourth location. Well, no. This will be our eighth location. We bought
That's
a chain
true.
of stores in
You
Montana.
did buy some new stores, yeah. But they've been in operation for over 100 years. Started up in the Cache Valley, up in Logan. So great company. We're excited to have them.
I'm excited to have them as well. Welcome.
Would you like Al's to just tell you a little bit about their history and who they are, since the council's maybe not familiar with them?
Yeah,
sure, absolutely.
As long as we have the owner here.
Yeah,
I don't
while
wanna
you're here.
take your time. I know how these council meetings can go long, so.
But for a sporting goods store, we'll take it.
And we like
hear
good
ya.
news.
Pardon?
Good
we like
news.
good news.
I'm Chris. Both of us are with Chris with a K, I guess. That's unusual to begin with. Chris Larson, and my grandfather was Al. My dad was Bob. I got roped into coming down here from Logan this week. My son Jason is the fourth generation, and you know, we've had a second home in St. George for 25 years, and my son also. We have roots to St. George. In fact, Sarah Levitt over in Santa Clara, the statue, that's my great-great-grandmother. So, and there's probably people in here that are related to her too. But just really quickly, my grandfather Al, he lived in Mexico in the Mormon polygamy colonies called Colonial Diaz, and they were forced out when he was, and his parents were not polygamists, by the way. But anyway, he was a little 12-year-old boy that came back into the United States from Mexico, and when they came, they were just dirt poor. They didn't have anything, and came back to Cache Valley. And he worked in a bike shop, decided he was going to open a little bike shop back then. That was 100 years ago last year in 1921. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Al's. We hope to you know, we have a great store. In Logan, Al's is the place that people go on dates. It's really a cool place. We're a 70,000 square foot store in Logan. We have another store in Orem, another store in Idaho Falls, and we've taken real estate similar to the Sears space and invested millions of dollars into it and made it really classy. Inside, outside, exterior. We partner with a lot of people in the industry like Patagonia, North Face, Nike, Under Armour. The list goes on. Trek Bicycles, they're planning on doing a really tricked out concept shop in this store. It will be good. We promise you guys will love Al's. And, you know, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. The Sears space, we weren't as excited as the Penny space. That's the place we really, really wanted to be, but that didn't happen. So we're taking the Sears space, and we just ask and plead that you go along with staff's recommendations, particularly on the drive. That parking lot back there is really a lonely, dull, hidden, scary place. It needs to be opened up for us, and it will be, Al's will be cool, I promise. Any questions?
Sounds amazing. I usually go on date night to Barnes & Noble, so now I'm going to add you to the second half of my date night.
The other thing that Al's does when we promote, that parking lot will be completely filled.
Sounds fun.
So mark my words.
When you said bike shop, Danielle was already on her way there.
I was
Yeah.
already.
We've been committed from Trek to have Trek bicycles down
Very
here.
cool.
Which is a big plus for us down St. George.
Well, we're excited that you're coming here, and thank you to Red Cliffs for doing what they're doing over there to make that
We're excited.
much better.
All right. Anything else?
Any other questions for the applicant?
Okay.
Thank you. And welcome. Okay, so is there anything else we need to add or any other discussion before we entertain a motion?
Sounds good to me.
I'll make the motion to approve an ordinance amending the Red Cliffs Mall PDC zone to create a new entrance off Mall Drive and to modify the exterior of the former Sears building for Al's Sporting Goods to fill the vacant space, and including the recommendations from Planning Commission for the added pedestrian space and working with Public Works on the entrance. Was that it as far as modifications? Yeah.
I'll second that motion.
So we have a motion by Danielle, a second by Greg. Any other discussion? This is an ordinance, so it's a roll call vote. Starting with Natalie.
Natalie Larson, aye.
Michelle Tanner, aye.
Danielle Larkin, aye.
Jimmy Hughes, aye.
Greg MacArthur, aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Exciting stuff. Thank you. All right, number 16.
Okay. Item number 16 is to consider approval of a hillside development permit to allow concrete stairs to act as a trail above the storm drain located in Tech Ridge, about southwest of 475 Donley Drive, for a project to be known as Tech Ridge Storm Drain. And this one's not fancy because this is Wes's project, so yeah, I'm taking,
Boring.
yeah. So I have to talk really fast, but I'm really bad at talking fast, so sorry, I can't do that part of Wes. So anyways, back in March, you heard the first part of this hillside permit, and that was the location of the drain, and then the location of the trail bridge, which both were approved. The stairwell was the stairway was kind of put on hold while the applicant worked with staff on this. This is just a picture showing the elevation change here. I've got several of them here. This one's showing you slopes. The darker the color gets, the higher the slope. So down here, in the Black Ridge Cove area, it's not as steep, but then it gets pretty steep as you get up to Tech Ridge Drive up there. Some more elevation images of the stairwell. And I believe these images were shown back in March of the stairwell. And there was, I I'm not sure if it was shown in the city council, the flyover. Did you see the flyover? I have that if you'd like to look at that again. But the applicant has come back. In fact, the last time they met was just this week on the stairs. There is an agreement. Well, let me add this in because this is new. They decided to do the lighting. The lighting is actually really cool. It's going to be underneath the handrail, the lights, so there won't be these big overhead lights. It'll be just some basically mood lighting on the stairs. But as staff has gone over with the applicant, there's several things that came up is, who is going to own the property? The property is going to be owned by the city. But the applicant is going to put in the stairs and the applicant is going to maintain the stairs. This all will be put in a development agreement. These are the items that staff is recommending be included in the development agreement on the stairwell. First of all, that, as I mentioned, the city will remain as the owner, and then number 2 is the applicant will install the stairs and maintain the stairs. The third one is that a permanent easement on this property be placed so that public access will be able to be used permanently on that site. Number 4 is that a deeper charcoal color is added to the concrete stairs to make it blend in with the mountainside. And then number 5 is any disturbed areas obviously will be revegetated. And number 6, a maintenance agreement will be put together that addresses the perpetual maintenance of the stairs. We would like that in the development agreement too. And we're thinking long term how that's going to work. Cameron is still here, so if you have any questions on the structural part, I know that was a big concern. Anytime you put a stairwell over the top of a utility, which is over the top of a storm drain on a mountainside, you get issues. So if you have any questions that are more technical than I can handle, Cameron's your man. So.
Just a quick question on the maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
How does that work? Maintain for how long and how? I guess
it is planned. The idea is forever.
Okay.
Forever.
I like that answer.
And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Cameron has mentioned that if it were the city, we wouldn't want to take on that just because of just concrete stairs on a hillside over a storm drain it sets you up for failure. However, I will mention, it doesn't set you up for failure. It just there will be cracks. There will be things that need to be maintained. But Cameron also told me this earlier, and that every time you have this landing, it helps. And so there's a series of landings with each of the little steps, and I think
I read that on the geotechnical report, so that will keep it from slumping, right?
Yes. So when they get issues, hopefully they will happen in these landings, and then they can replace those, as opposed to where the stairs are. Then that's a lot bigger of a repair. So you might come up here because and add anything you need to.
Really, after we talked about what they've found when they've installed the storm drain, there's a lot of sandstone rock rather than loose material. That's very helpful. They might be able to key into, we'll have the geotech out there, and they might key into that on the sides. The trail is wider than the trench was for the storm drain. And so it helped alleviate some of my concerns. Concrete, you're going to get cracking and things like that, but I know the applicant, he mentioned that it will go on perpetually for this maintenance, but hey, in 20 years, 30 years, if they don't have any problems, they'd love to be relinquished from that agreement. But the plan is to have it perpetual.
Cameron, what's the linear distance? Do you know?
300 and something stairs. What was Craig's here? He'll know the dimensions.
I just want to make sure our race department knows so they can add it to one of our races.
Craig Coates with Alliance Consulting. I have a lot of fun facts. I thought that would be asked. So the total length is 600 feet.
Okay.
The height is 175 feet. And then the total stairs, there's 352 stairs. And then there's about 275,000 cubic, or 275 yards of mud to be poured for the concrete. and it'll be about $350K approximately to install this set of stairs. So
I
it's
have a-
going to be an exciting, fun stairway for sure. So
I have a question about the cement product, just because I know we don't live in the snow, but sometimes over time we get really slippery sidewalks that are used heavily. And so I'm wondering, as far as drainage and, you know, ice buildup, how it does rain and freeze sometimes here. And that would go to cracking as well. Because
Yeah.
if you've ever had cement crack, sometimes you have a little teeny crack, it freezes and expands. And so I'm wondering how that works.
So on this set of stairs, we've thought about all those items because concrete does the frost on it, frost thaw. And what we've done is with those landings, there's separation. We'll have our fabric in between those. We've pinned them down to each set of stairs, and then we've also put like little notches in the bottom to help with the sliding on the hillside as well.
Awesome.
So
Should have known you thought about it. Thank you.
Does the applicant have any issues with the 6 items recommended from Planning Commission?
I think we're good with them, right, Isaac? Yeah. So.
Can I ask a question? Is the maintenance agreement going to contain any indemnification for liability for maintenance that doesn't happen and causes injury? Because it's going to be on the city's property. The city has concerns about it being cement. So that's a question that I have, is can the maintenance agreement include an indemnification for liability?
So I'll have to refer to Isaac on that answer.
We haven't thought about that, but I guess it makes sense. You know, so what you're saying is the indemnified towards if maintenance is not done, which then creates a situation that can cause an injury, right? Yeah, I mean, I think anything reasonable we're very happy to look at and work with. The closest we saw to this stairs was the ones between here and the city, or the police department in St. George, you know, as far as an example of large concrete steps.
Good question. But any other questions? One of the other things you need to add to your fun facts is there have been people that have driven up that trail in a vehicle.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I hope it wasn't my staff.
Yeah. I saw it happen. Yeah. It might have been Councilman MacArthur. I don't know. I might have been with him.
Interesting, they want to put numbers on each of these stairs so that somebody, you know, like Danielle, she can go up to all of them. But for me, when I need to call 911, I can say, I'm on stair number 10. I need help.
Hey, Cameron, we could make all of our storm drains this cool. I mean, think about it.
Yeah, it is going to be a lot of fun.
No, I
think
think
it'll be iconic and people will really enjoy it.
So I guess on that issue, then I guess, I don't know, how do we tackle that with the uncertainty of indemnity, however you say that word?
Well, there were some conditions that were recommended, so I would just add that the maintenance agreement included an indemnification clause.
Because we do need to have that maintenance agreement in place, correct? That's one of the conditions. Were there other conditions besides the maintenance agreement? With the black, I know, oh yeah, that reminded me. If you look at what the applicant did on the road over there, can't even tell the road's there. That was a great job on the color.
And it looks better every day.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty confident that it's going to blend in.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we're really excited about this project.
Yeah, everything you've done up there, Isaac, has been top notch. You've proven that you do very quality work. So I feel like you'll do the same on these stairs. We're excited about them.
Oh, there they are.
Thank you.
So 6 is the maintenance agreement. So, and you said earlier you're okay with all those conditions.
The only one that the charcoal blending we're happy with. We're not sure it'll stay looking as good. You know, we've talked to Alliance and the concrete and the people installing the concrete, and they're saying that probably in the long run won't look as good as if you just poured it concrete. You know, it just had the gray color. And we looked at it with that color in relation to the hillside, and we felt like it was fine. So we're happy to do that if that's what the city wants to do. But the recommendations from the contractors is to not do that, because they say it'll never look the same, because if you color it with, if you charcoal color it, and then let's say 5 years later you have to go replace a section, they said it's not going to ever be the same color. And so they felt like it would be better if you left it just the standard concrete color.
I agree with that.
So then it ends up looking patchy.
Yes. So that's the
So-
only one we have question on, but we're happy to submit to it if that's what the city wants.
I feel like even with colored concrete, when people pour that and they have to pour a lot of it, the mixes, I mean, you could be different from top to bottom.
Yes.
At the same day. I mean, over the same week or 2 weeks.
We'll call
Yeah.
it ombre stairs. Is that what it's called? Ombre, not ombre. Ombre stairs.
Yeah, and we've looked at that particular spot, and we don't think it'll stand out as much because there's not quite as much black rock around it. There's a lot more of the natural vegetation to blend in with, so we think it'd be fine gray, but.
The other thing is on the edges, it will have the basalt rock, landscape rock along the edge that'll tie right up to the stairs of the areas that were scarred during the storm drain. So that'll help make it blend into the natural edge as well.
You know, just this last week, I was walking the Temple Quarry Trail that goes along the other side of that mountain, and those stairs are way up in there too.
Yeah.
So it's not like they stand out; they're tucked back up in that. So I'd be okay if we don't think it's.
And I mean, I don't know if this is accurate, but when I saw that charcoal coloring, I thought it might actually increase the heat radiation. I don't know if it would or not. Do you know, Craig?
Black always increases.
Yeah. So, I mean, really just doing the regular concrete is probably better.
Was that expressed to the planning commission, that what you just said, Isaac, about the, or did that not come up?
I don't remember if it came up or not. It's been a while ago. Yeah, thank you.
The charcoal on the stairs, that was actually from the hillside. They were the ones that recommended that. And there wasn't, part of the hillside ordinance mentions that, you know, you have to blend in if you're doing a retaining wall or whatnot. And so I think that's where that came from, and they didn't really discuss the long-term effects of that, so.
Carol, does staff have a concern on that? I mean, do you get?
No, I think it would be okay with just concrete. It is true, when you look at the landscape around there, it's not that black in that area. It's not that dark right where the stairwell's going. And there's a lot of vegetation. Yeah, and I have it on here.
So yeah, the video shows that it's great.
This doesn't move.
Let me do it. It's not letting me do control. Maybe I just. Yeah, but I can do this though. I have it all here.
So we have a video that shows, we went out and flew it after the storm drain was installed, and then it shows the stairs on top of it afterwards. So.
It looks on my computer.
Yeah, I have it on my iPad, but it's just a small screen if you wanted to see it. Yeah, I think we've shown it somewhere.
Yeah. It's just an update with the new scar, but it just showed where the scar was and then it overlapping on top of it. So it shows it covering it all up, but it's essentially the same, just with the new video of the scar. Oh, it's the Tech Ridge stairs. I didn't know there's other stuff on here.
If you could keep the sagebrush up, it's that kind of silvery color right there.
Certainly looks like a lot more than 300 stairs.
So
That picture makes it look like they should be red.
red.
No. That stair rail is going to make it a little hard for the Ford Raptor.
Yes, it will be hard to do it again.
Yeah.
Well, I just
Yeah.
said them for the mountain bike team.
Yeah.
That's why you got.
Yeah.
That's why Bill Clyde drive for you.
They'll try it.
They'll try.
The mountain bike team will try it. No question. Okay. All right, so we have that. So we could eliminate that condition, or however you want to do that, council.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think discussion on that. I think if we're talking, we're talking forever maintenance, right? 100 years maintenance is a long-term amenity, and if we think that it's going to look patchy moving forward,
Yeah.
then, and it is tucked back up in there. So I think we could remove it.
All right, I'm ready to entertain a motion if you want to put all that together for this item number 16.
Mayor Pro Temp, I'll make a motion that we approve a hillside development permit to allow concrete stairs to act as a trail above a storm drain located in Tech Ridge, southwest of 475 Donley Drive, for a project to be known as Tech Ridge Storm Drain.
About the liability stuff that Tanya
Oh,
was talking
so we
about.
would like to include the
Conditions.
conditions that were recommended.
Minus the gray.
Minus the gray concrete.
But adding indemnification to the maintenance.
While adding indemnification to the maintenance agreement.
So minus the charcoal concrete, right?
Right.
Yeah, charcoal, correct.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Greg, a second by Danielle. Is everybody clear on those conditions? Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. It's not, it doesn't say ordinance. Am I okay? All right. Okay, still on with Carol?
Okay, moving on to number
17.
17, okay. This is consider approval of a preliminary plat, and it does say Red Pine Phase 2, but it should be River Crossing Phase 2. That was a typo in there. A 2-lot commercial subdivision located at the southeast corner of George Washington Parkway and River Road. So this is the River Crossing development that we just heard a little bit ago. So location, once again, River Road and George Washington Boulevard. We've got the zoning, well, it was just approved to change, so that's the old zoning. This is the plat, and it's a little bit confusing, so I took liberties to mark it up a little bit so it's easier to understand. So this is River Road, so we're kind of looking at it on the side in George Washington Boulevard. This was Phase 1, all of that area that's to the north. Phase 2 is this area in white, and it's lots 1 and 2. The blue line is actually the floodplain line that runs through Lot 1. And up here is where that open space was. Right now, it's kind of off on its own. We're really actually going to have the applicant put half of it in this one and the other half in the 2. So this line will just go straight up and include that all, so that the open space is not left as a dangling parcel there. So this is it. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer on that.
Any questions for Carol? This is the preliminary plat for River Crossing, remember, not Red Pine, Phase 2. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the preliminary plat for River Crossing Phase 2, a 2-lot commercial subdivision located at the southeast corner of George Washington Parkway and River Road.
Second.
We have a motion by Danielle, a second by Natalie. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Oops. Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong. Are we on? Yes, we're at the end, right?
Yeah,
It's the last
so we're
time
going to
you'll be
19.
hearing from me tonight.
18's not there, so 19.
Yes. Okay. Number 19. This is to consider approval of an ordinance amending Title 10 of the City Code to add hobby garage units as a permitted with standards in the PDC zone, and to add those specific standards Sorry, I don't have my glasses on, so I just muffled through that one. Okay, so we've got our standard use list, and this is for planned development commercial zones. Right now, we do not allow hobby garages. So the plan or the idea is to add hobby garages from the applicant wanting to do this. But we're making it so that you can only have a PDC to have a hobby garage in St. George, and you also have to follow the permitted with standards, so there's specific standards that go along with this. So hopefully you've had a chance to go over these standards. I'll briefly go over them. They are, it talks about the location, can't be located directly across the street from a residential, the entrance at least. And then also all of the units have to be on a local drive or a private drive, not a local street. Also, let's see, for B, each hobby garage unit shall have a minimum setback of 20 feet from that private drive. C talks about the dimensions, and the B, the C, and the D all had to do with the Planning Commission was concerned that someone would come in and just want to do storage units. And so with these extra, really the B, the C, and the D are going to make it way too cost prohibitive for someone to put in storage units. They can if they want to, but it'll be very costly to do these 20 by 40 foot deep dimensions for the floor for C. And then E, they need to have 2 doors, an exterior door and then a garage door, and they can't be in the door can't be inside the garage. And then E is the dimensions of the garage door itself. It needs to be 10 feet wide by 14 feet high. The maximum height is 25 feet. They can only be single story, but they can have a mezzanine level, or what do you call it, mezzanine level up there. And then for G, it's the facade. So there needs to be architectural variations in the roof line and all of that. The colors need to be the natural muted tones, and the exterior needs to be stone, stucco, plus the applicant did want a little bit of rustic metal, because that's kind of a cool thing to do now, so that's in there as well. H is landscaping, talks about all areas need to be landscaped that aren't covered with hardscape. And then lighting obviously shall meet our regulations. J is about, let's see what the use is. We don't want anyone using these for commercial use or living in them. And then K has to do with what you can't keep in them. It's just like our storage units, any flammable material. L has to do with what is allowed inside. We are going to allow half baths. And then also a little area, not a kitchen, but they are allowed to have a microwave, a refrigerator, and a wet bar sink inside their garages. And then M has to do with ownership. These can be owned, one person can own all of the units and then lease out the units, or they can be condominiumized as long as they follow the Utah Condominium Act. And then whether they're subdivided or not, they all need to be managed by one entity, so that we felt like that would give more cohesiveness in the way each unit looks and the maintenance of the projects. So right now we actually have 2 storage or hobby garage type units that we have permitted. One is on Tuweep, and then the other one is in Sun River. I looked back at them today, and actually the Sun River would meet these regulations, the Tuweep one wouldn't, but so we've got one of those developments going into to go in line with this code. So we did meet with the Planning Commission. They did hold a public hearing. There were no comments. They did recommend approval of this zone regulation amendment. I can answer any questions. Also, I believe Ryan's here. Yeah. Ryan, the applicant, can also answer questions.
I wanted to ask Ryan a question. Ryan, do you have any concern about, the only thing I didn't see in there was like any sort of regulation on noise, and I know we already have noise ordinance regulations, but has that ever been a problem with these? Somebody's hobby is excessively noisy and it bothers the neighbors?
You know, there could be some noise, but with the city code of, you know, you shouldn't have noise during certain times of the day. And then also, that would be something that would be addressed in the CC&Rs.
Okay,
And so it would be enforced by the other users of the storage or hobby garages.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure you didn't have a concern about it or want us to add anything about that, but sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I think they did a good job of tackling what these should be and how they fit in well with the city. So I think that is good. If there's no other questions, I'll make a motion.
Perfect.
Make a motion, Mayor Pro Tem, I'll make a motion that we approve an ordinance amending the Title 10 of City Code to add hobby garage units as a permitted with standards use in the planned development commercial zone, and to add the specific standards for this use.
Second.
So we have a motion by Greg, a second by Natalie. Are there any other discussion items? This is an ordinance requiring a roll call vote, so we'll start with Michelle.
Michelle Tanner, aye.
Natalie Larson, aye.
Greg MacArthur, aye.
Jimmy Hughes, aye.
Danielle Larkin, aye.
Motion carries unanimously. All right, so that brings us down to, was there anything else, Adam, before appointments?
Just want to make sure you saw the message about the Art Commission members.
Yes.
For appointments.
Yes, so that'd be appropriate to do that now, correct?
Item 20, yes.
So we have, I believe Mayor Randall has already talked to these people and made sure they're aware. We do have 3 people that we're adding to the Arts Commission, is that right, Danielle? And they are, do you want to tell us who they are?
I don't have the list.
Okay, I have it
Sorry.
right here.
I know they emailed it to me, but I don't know the list. I
so we
apologize.
have the 3 members that are recommended to be added to the St. George Art Commission are Ginger Nelson. None of these people are here today, are they? Karen Edwards, and is it Tara or Tara? Tara Griffith. Okay, so that's what we need. We need a motion to appoint those people.
All
to the
right,
Art
I will
Commission.
make that motion, and also I get to sit on that board, and I am so grateful for our Art Commission. They do a lot of heavy lifting for us, so grateful for those new members, and I'll make that motion that we add them to our Art Commission.
I will second that motion.
So I have a motion by Danielle, a second by Greg. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Do we have any other appointments that we're aware of? Oh, yes. Okay. So with Adam moving on, we do have to appoint a interim city manager. So I would need a motion from...
I have it right here, I think.
Go ahead if you'd like to make a motion. We're going to be appointing an interim city manager while we do a nationwide search. We'll put out requests for applications for a permanent city manager. So we will appoint someone on an interim basis.
Okay. So I will say, I just want to say how much I have really been honored and loved the opportunity to work with Adam, and he will be very severely missed, and I will move that John Willis is appointed as the interim city manager, and that the mayor is authorized to negotiate and execute a contract with John to effectuate the appointment.
I'll second that motion.
So we have a motion by Danielle and a second by Natalie. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we're down to reports. We'll start with you, Michelle. Reports.
No reports.
Natalie?
I had a great time picking up garbage with the Interfaith Council and St. George PD on Red Hills Parkway, and then went down to watch the, I've got to be careful, the city linemen climb the poles at the Sun Bowl. It was a great day. And then Danielle did a great job at the Boys and Club open house over at Sandstone the other day, and she's a great speaker, and it was fun to see those kids. The Veterans Coalition is doing great things. Veterans Day is coming up. I just want to remind people that Washington City has a Veterans Day parade and does a great job with that. But our veterans do great talk about people who serve our country and continue to serve our country. That Veterans Coalition is just men and women out there doing the right things all the right time.
Very good. Thank you, Natalie.
And did David hear? I don't know if I could say it, but the birthday party for the city will be on the 21st this year. So the town won't be so full, so residents may be able to enjoy the free things we offer that day. So
That was a
January
good
21st.
move, so it won't be so crowded.
Perfect.
Actually came from somebody that works for the city that suggested that, and I thought that was great.
Perfect. Greg?
I just wanted to make mention, just want to say kudos to the city and all those who are involved with it. We have so many events in town this month, with the marathon, Huntsman World Senior Games, and then we have the Ironman coming up. Just the great job of notification. There are so many people in town, but yet you don't feel like it's that many people in town, just because it's managed so well. So kudos to everybody that's involved with that.
Thank you, Greg. As far as my reports, St. George Housing Authority's going really well. We had a meeting last week. Also, Switchpoint, things are going forward there. Lots of stuff going on at our resource center, helping with the homeless issues. We also had our Dixie MPO, Danielle and the mayor are both on this board where we do regional transportation planning. We had a fairly short meeting, but then we had some visitors from the Governor's Office of Planning and Budgeting, I believe.
And Envision Utah.
Yeah, Envision Utah. They did an interactive kind of polling of the various community members there and leaders as far as what our big concerns are, things related to growth, water, what else? Danielle? Traffic. It was
housing shortage.
along with some of the projections of our population growth based on past and present numbers, what they're projected the population of Washington County to be, which is kind of eye-opening. It was a really good discussion, and my thought was they were trying to gather some information and input from us to take back to the governor and those people making decisions on budgeting and budgeting recommendations and things that we're all dependent on when we have projects that need to be done. So I'll let you kind of expound on that as well, Danielle, since you were there. But I thought it was a very informative meeting. It showed some interest from the governor's office on what our thought process down here was. One of the main messages I think that we gave to them was, we can't have a one-size-fits-all across the state. We're a little different here in southern Utah maybe than they are in northern Utah as far as what our needs and challenges are. So I thought it was a great meeting and some good input. Went on for an hour and a half, so it was really good. So Danielle?
Yeah, no, I think you covered that really well. I thought it was fantastic that they were willing to come down and gather the data. They were using a system where actually we could type in on our phones on an app. So they weren't just asking the questions, they were actually saying type this up for us and send it. So they'll be able to collate all that data, and they're going all over the state to all the large and small municipalities. So that's really fantastic. A couple things, I'll try to be fast. We have a member of our city employees who just received his U.S. citizenship this week. His name's Hank. He works in the Energy Services Department. He's a totally awesome employee. And I was lucky enough to go out to his ceremony. They held it for the first time ever at Zion National Park. And it was the coolest experience. It was super emotional and beautiful. And I mean, Superintendent Brady Baugh said, you guys are coming here today as visitors. You're not, citizens. And he said, you're leaving today as owners, as citizens. You're owners of the national parks, and every one of you has an obligation. I just thought it was beautiful. And congratulations to Hank. He's a really great employee, and it was exciting to see him become a U.S. citizen. The St. George Musical Theater, their gala is this a week from today, unfortunately. I said we have city council on Thursdays, but that's when it is if anyone is able to go. And the I Heart St. George sign, the popular sign that was out last year, is back. So we would love for everyone. It is on Main Street and the Boulevard, kind of on the corner that is southeast, where Zion Bank is. Wait a second. Zion National Park with no S. Zion's Bank with an S, correct? Okay. Where Zion's Bank is. So we'd love for people to go take a picture with that and do the hashtag #IHeartSt. David, is it #IHeartSt or #IHeartSTG? #IHeartSTG hashtag. The one last thing I wanted to share is I went to the Day of the Dead celebration last night at the Art Museum. It was so much fun. The Art Museum was packed solid with people. I have no idea how many hundreds of people were there. There was local submissions of art for Day of the Dead, and there was a dancing group from Las Vegas. It was just like electric. It was really fun. And then the coolest part was, as I walked home, I walked past the Opera House, and the St. George Musical Theater was going on in there. I walked past Station 2, and they had somebody playing music outside, so it was just projecting some nice country music out into the air. And then there was the Horror Fest happening. I know, I don't watch horror movies either, Natalie, I saw your face, but lots of people love them apparently. Horror Fest movies happening at the Electric Theater. The Tabernacle had a concert. It was so much fun, and there were just people everywhere, and it just made me feel so proud of our community and like the lively, fun atmosphere that we've created. There was something for everyone, is what I was thinking last night as I was walking down Main Street. I thought, what a fun and exciting downtown, and I hope we continue that, and we just continue to have such a great, energetic downtown. It was a lot of fun, so that's it.
Thank you. And so then our reminder that the next weekend, big weekend, 28th and 29th, that's our 2-day Ironman. So just a reminder out there to be aware of that. And also last thing for me, and then I'm going to turn some time over to Adam, is I noticed I had a ballot in the mail. So just a reminder, it's voting time. So don't forget your ballots and get out and vote. So Adam.
I'm going to go to the podium. Yes, I have a picture. I think you're going to think it's hilarious. I think it's funny. I want to share it. Hopefully I can get it on the computer.
Perfect.
I might need your help. So yes, this is my last council meeting. I was doing some rough math earlier this week. I bet I've attended over 1,000 council meetings in my life over the past 20 years. It feels like a lot. It feels like a whole lot. And as I was looking around earlier, I got a little emotional. I was looking at our team, and I was like, man, I'm going to miss you guys. So last night, my wife and I had the chance to go to Camelot at SGMT. Has anybody seen it yet? It's a really cute show. Our oldest daughter, our 19-year-old, she's in the ensemble, and so we got to go see her. And it reminded me that when I came to the city, it's been almost 5 years. When I came to the city 5 years ago and my whole family came down, I'm going to show you a picture from that council meeting. When I was appointed, the city council, and Jimmy was on the council at the time, and Mayor Randall, super classy. They gave us a little gift basket and some tickets to SGMT. I still remember the show. It was Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and we enjoyed it. I think it's still the same hard chairs that were there 5 years ago. They're still at SGMT. But we really enjoyed that show. If you've ever seen Camelot, there's a song in there, and I had to Google it, but it's How to Handle a Woman. Anybody know that song? Great song. And part of the chorus, I guess, how to handle a woman. The way to handle a woman is to love her, simply love her. And I could not help but think about St. George and this incredible community. How do you handle this place? Fastest growing city in the nation. You just love it. And I just want to say, I want to be able to say publicly how much I love St. George. Thank you so much for, for the privilege and honor of working with this team. I apologize that my back is to my staff, but you guys know I'm talking to you too, of course. But I love St. George. Absolutely love it. Earlier in the meeting, I was looking at Natalie and Jimmy, and I'm like, I don't know the first thing about cows. We could be on totally different planets there. I've never had a good experience on a horse, never once. But that's a life that you guys are real familiar with. And I thought how different the perspectives are that we bring to this community. But I know you love St. George as much as I do. And I could say the same for all of you here, everybody in this room. We love this city. The picture I've got to show you that I think is hilarious. So this was my family. They were sitting right here in the council meeting when I got appointed. And here's my little guy. I think Sean took this picture, and they were so good. The appointment happened at the beginning of the meeting, and I think it was a night like tonight. We had a bunch of items on the agenda, and you can see, oh, there's that gift basket there. You can see how well they were handling a long meeting. My youngest, Bentley, he's a lot bigger now, but I know this is how most people feel about city business. I mean, most people, their eyes glaze over, they don't care, they're not paying attention. Even my wife's like, oh, brother, this is taking forever. But this is what we do. This is what we've dedicated our careers to, those of us who work for the city. And then, of course, the tremendous sacrifice that our elected officials make to come do a job that it's not fun anymore. If it ever was fun, I think maybe it was a little more fun. But it's not as fun as it used to be, I don't think. It's a thankless job to be an elected official. I think it's hard for city staff, but man, we love this place, and I think that's the secret to our success. It will always be the secret to our success. And so while most people may feel like my kids there just these things are boring and terrible, and why do we have to spend time on them? They do make a difference. I hope for my staff, if you guys remember anything that I ever did you guys know I was a softie? I don't know if you did. If my staff remember anything I've ever told you, it's remember that this is a world-class city, and you're a world-class team. And keep building. I'm not one who recites poems, but I know your dad was. And he had a poem I've been told that he would recite on occasion, and it was be a builder, not a wrecker. And I had never heard that poem before. A friend sent it to me a couple of months ago, and I thought it was so appropriate just in the context of all the work that lies ahead for the city of St. George and for you, and with that attitude, with that approach, you're going to do it. You'll get it done. There's heavy, weighty issues here, water and growth and all the things that we're trying to tackle every day. And I just want everyone here to know that I'm always cheering for you. I will always be rooting for St. George. This is a world-class city, and I'm so excited. We're going to stay in the community, have some fun opportunities ahead for us, and I'll share those when they're a little more concrete. But it has been a wonderful experience for me. And thanks again. Sorry for the emotion, but thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Adam. We wish you the best, and we're glad that you're staying here in the community. Okay, that completes our agenda. If there's nothing else, I'll take a motion
So moved.
that we stand adjourned. No. Yep. No vote needed. We're adjourned. Oh, do we have, I forgot to ask. Do we have a need for a closed session? Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay.